I hate doing this video. It's so boring, but it's hugely important if you're in an IT leadership role. Budget season for most organizations is just around the corner. I know we all hate budgeting out our projected costs for the next year. I used to work in corporate finance and business planning, no less. I know what you're going through. Let's talk about how to make the best case for your organization in the coming budget cycle. Hi, I'm Steve Murphy. I'm a vice president at ARG, and while I work for ARG, this video is my own and does not represent the views or opinions of my employer. As I said, I worked in corporate finance way early in my career. I was a certified public accountant, or CPA, here in the U.S. with a master's of business administration or an MBA in finance. One of my early jobs in the technology industry was managing product profitability and marketing programs for a Fortune 500 telecommunications company. Forecasting and budgeting was the second worst thing I had to do. The worst was actually the mid-year budget adjustments. But anyway, I feel the pain for those who have to put together IT budgets. This video is focused on security. Let me know if you want a broader IT budgeting video that would be more focused on corporate strategy. Leave me a comment below if that's something you want to see. Okay, so assembling a security budget. Now, your approach may be different. There are a lot of politics and established processes that go into creating a budget for a particular organization. Your approach may vary, but here are some suggestions. It's important to remember the ultimate goal is to not simply buy more tools to chase the growing number of threats that experts find every day, but that cybersecurity should focus on protecting assets and limiting the fallout of attacks that are most relevant and vital to the business operations. There will always be some risk, and we can't do anything to avoid all risk. In my view, the best way to structure cybersecurity planning and budget required to deliver it is to use an assessment framework. Doing this provides a structure to the process that everyone working in the area will recognize. Plus, it leads to outputs that identify what your needs are and in what order they should be addressed based upon the priority of the risk. There are many frameworks available that you can use. Some are more complicated than others. One option, for example, is the NIST cybersecurity framework. It's detailed enough for most organizations without being too complex. One thing to keep in mind if you're using a framework is to make sure your budget is spread appropriately across the framework. You can get caught up addressing a few early areas of the framework and leave the other areas that come later unaddressed. For example, there are 5 areas in the NIST framework: identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Be sure to consider all the areas before finalizing your budget. Don't spend all of your budget in identify and protect, for example, leaving nothing for the other areas. Further, if you're advanced in your cyber posture, taking a risk-based approach can lead to significant savings. Not every element of the organization needs to be protected in the same way. Classifying areas by risk category and applying different protection and mitigation approaches to each category can stretch your cyber budget further. When approaching a budget, there are 2 ways to look at it. From the top down, in which you look at what you're currently spending today and incorporate some changes that you're planning. This is the easiest approach, but it's also this is the easiest approach. So it's commonly used, but it's not the best approach in my view. The top-down approach assumes that what you're doing today is the best that you can do after adjusting for the planned changes. It's very presumptive and does not require deep strategic thinking that I believe should be part of the budgeting process. Also, top-down is not very defensible when the finance department wants to understand the validity of your components. That said, it works in a lot of organizations and it's easy. My preferred approach is the bottom-up or zero-based approach. A bottom-up approach starts from scratch at zero and forces you to rebuild the cost model of your organization piece by piece, separately justifying each component and how much it costs. The bottom-up approach forces strategic thinking, and you're afforded the opportunity to start asking questions like, in a perfect world, how would we accomplish X? Notice I didn't say how would we do X. It's how we would accomplish X. There's a big difference. Strategic thinkers want to accomplish goals, not just do things. For example, start by asking the question, in a perfect world, how would we protect laptops? That's a goal that needs to be accomplished, and you can think more strategically about that question. If you started by asking a tactical question of how will I manage laptop security, that's the doing of the goal and comes with assumptions that may or may not be optimal. If the in a perfect world, how would we protect our laptops question leads you to the answer, in a perfect world, laptop security would entail an advanced endpoint detection and response platform, maybe monitored and supported by a managed security services provider, or MSSP, with an automated response capability that might also feed a security orchestration platform. Now, that's a strategy or a vision that you can start moving towards in your budget. Of course, your budget has to reflect reality as well. Today, you might have a traditional EPP or endpoint protection platform and reactively respond to security events through your help desk. That's where you start for your laptop security budget, but you have your end of the year hopefully in mind as you plan. And you also need a business case that supports moving in the direction you've mapped out. Maybe you have one, maybe you don't. If you don't, let me know. There's a chance we can help you develop one. Okay, so a common reaction to the bottom-up approach is that it takes longer and you get to the same place. Just budgeting for what you have today, plus or minus some changes. I can't really argue with that. It's generally true, but in the process of constructing a bottom-up budget, you get to plan, you get to strategize, you get to envision a future and work towards executing your vision. You may enhance your leadership role in the organization as an offset or another benefit. And that's where I think things get fun. One area that will help you understand where you need to invest is looking at your cyber insurance policy, if you have one. And if you don't, well, add that to your budget. Cyber insurance does not really belong in the cybersecurity budget. It's better administered or administrated in your risk management or finance department. But if your organization does not yet have insurance, you should be pushing for it. You don't need your actual cyber policy. What you really need are the requirements necessary to renew that policy. You can get the current requirements from your insurance provider. You see, cyber insurance underwriters have been increasing the requirements for coverage. If your organization doesn't meet the requirements to be insurable, your insurance, even if you have it, may not pay out on a future claim. You should be able to get budget for everything your insurance requires, because if you don't meet the requirements, then you're simply wasting the insurance policy premiums. Cancel the insurance and use the money to buy solutions it requires. You'll be better off. As I mentioned, regarding the assessment frameworks, be sure you have both defensive measures and mitigation and restoration measures covered in your budget. If you only have defensive measures, such as firewalling and endpoint protection, when you do get hit, you'll have to spend much more money outside your budget to mitigate the attack and restore services. You'll also be asked why you didn't have mitigation solutions in place at the beginning. It's better to push for what you believe you need and be denied than to not ask because you believe you'll be rejected. Hopefully your budget process can be a strategic exercise. Last year, on average, according to Gartner, cyber spending increased 12%. Well, with inflation, we'll probably see at least that or more for the coming year. Take the time and refresh your cyber strategy and roadmap in this upcoming budget cycle. If you got some value out of this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, a like, and thank you very much for doing that. If you want to return to this channel in the future, the best way of doing that is by hitting the subscribe button. That will put my videos in your feed, and you can find your way back at your convenience. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.